Welcome to With One Accord, the Houston Chamber Choir podcast. I'm Flynn, host of Behind the Music. Today's episode is made possible in part by the generous support of Silvercrest Asset Management Group, providing an unparalleled level of quality investment advice. On this episode of Behind the Music, it's my great pleasure to be able to welcome the Houston Chamber Choir's longtime educational consultants. We have Schott and Eddie Quaid, who are, again, for the 23rd year, organizing the Houston Chamber Choir's Hear the Future performance and choral workshop. Sally and Eddie, welcome. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sally, I'll toss the first question to you and ask you to give us a sense of what Hear the Future is all about.
Well, it is exemplified by its title. It gives audiences a chance to hear singers of the future, because in concert we feature an elementary choir, a middle school choir, and a high school choir, and of course the Houston Chamber Choir. So you can see the evolution of singers from the elementary grades all the way through adult professionals. It's a free community concert, and we have been blessed to have full houses almost every year.
Well, Eddie, how are these choirs, how do they come to be part of this special performance?
Well, I was particularly impressed. I've been a longtime fan of the Houston Chamber Choir, and getting to know Bob Simpson when he approached me when I was still teaching, and actually Sally was still teaching as well, with the opportunity to perform. It's a great honor. And the local community has really stellar high school and middle school and children choir programs. And Bob had a terrific idea to showcase these choirs on Hear the Future. So that's what we've been all about. And actually, Sally and I were lucky enough to be invited, Sally several times, to sing. And then when Bob decided to maybe branch out with some schools maybe that he was not familiar with, he asked us to join together and to help him out, thus educational consultants. So we actually, through our contacts with the schools, with contests and concerts in the local area, we kind of keep a mental running list of excellent programs, and we draw on that every year.
And so what is it, Sally, that you are looking for in a choir that you invite to participate in Hear the Future?
Excellence, musicianship, beautiful tone, established reputation. And as Eddie said, in the Houston area, we're blessed with very high quality choral music. And I'd like to add, Eddie, for many years, did the St. Paul's United Methodist Church Choral Scholars. And he went around and visited schools and recruited very fine singers. So he's very familiar with some of the best choral directors in the area. Since 2004, I have supervised music student teachers. So this is my 18th year, and I've had well over 100 student teachers. And so I've had the opportunity to also visit many classrooms. So we're very familiar with the choral scene in the Houston metropolitan area.
Hear the Future is a weekend. It's not just the Sunday performance on January 29th. There is also a component, a clinic component the day before. What does that involve, Eddie, and how is that tied into the performance?
Well, actually, it was kind of a natural extension of offering an opportunity to really advanced high school choirs and those that are just getting their feet on the ground, whether it's a new teacher or maybe a program that has been there for a while, but the participation at the school might not be, what you would want in a really large high school choir or junior high choir. So there again, it was Bob's idea, and to do this outreach. And the Houston Chamber Choir has sponsored this. They pay the expenses and get a really internationally known clinician to come in who knows how to work with these choirs. And it's a wonderful opportunity. We give 8 choirs an opportunity to come in a low stress, non-performance pressure situation and sing for each other. So it's really, it's in its 4th time. We skipped COVID, but it gives us an opportunity to reach 8 more choirs on a Saturday under a low pressure situation. And it's been a win-win for everyone.
And this year's clinician, I believe, is Dr. Janaea Robeson. What is it that she, and I'm asking you to talk for her, what is it that she will be sort of teasing out of these 8 choirs, Sally?
Well, she will work with choir number 1 on whatever literature they perform. It does not have to be polished. It can be in some stage of learning. And the people that we select for this role are extremely experienced in language, musical style, musicianship, the virtues of choral music, balance, blend, tone. So they are able to spontaneously react to whatever they hear and in a supportive way address any weaknesses they see, give strategies to both the students and the teacher, because this is a great learning experience for the teacher. And it's an in the moment thing that these types of clinicians have worked with literally hundreds of choirs in situations like this, and they're experts in it. An interesting aspect for these clinics is the watching choir, because they're paired and one sings and one watches. They are engaged in responding as well. The clinician turns and asks them their opinion about the sound of a phrase or dynamics, and it's simply amazing. So they're not just watching, they are actively involved, and that is also a part of the learning experience.
And I would imagine, Eddie, that this can be quite fraught because, in essence, with each choir, you've got 2 different students. You've got the choir itself, the members of the choir, but then you've also got the conductor. How do you impart knowledge and experience to both of those constituencies at the same time?
Well, there again, it's a wonderful situation. Part of the strength of the choral programs in Texas in particular is competition. Competition is good, but the flip side of that is particularly choral music and involving these kids is cooperative rather than competitive in nature. And we have been so pleased with the responses of, I actually think the students who are listening and not singing and not under the gun are actually able to learn as much or more than the groups performing. And the clinicians we've had, as Sally said, engage the students that are listening. And actually that's a very, very important skill. So there again, it's a win-win because it's non-competitive and it's a new avenue for these kids when they're working so hard to achieve goal. Sometimes it's go, go, go with techniques and minutia. And then they can sit back, it's music they haven't heard before and people who are strangers. And the reaction of these choirs, without a doubt, has been really positive for another group. So I think it's a great advantage.
So you're sort of tuning their ears all the time, aren't you?
Yes.
Sally, when you have choirs that are, from specific grades, I think you've got coming up on the 29th, January 29th, in North Houston Children's Chorus, the Seven Lakes Junior High School and also Montgomery High School. Do those different age categories demand a different focus of instruction or critique?
Well, it has to be age appropriate, but the type of groups we recommend for Hear the Future are very accomplished for their category. And as you know, a fine children's choir can be just as artistic as a university choir.
Mm-hmm.
And the choirs we select have established a reputation for outstanding musicianship, beautiful tone, good precision. Middle school is often a little more difficult because of the changing voices, particularly of the boys. Sometimes the schools we have invited have chosen to bring a treble choir. One year middle school brought a tenor bass choir, and sometimes they do treble, tenor bass, and then one mixed. In the state of Texas, almost all the middle school choral classes are separated by gender, and that's to address the needs of the boys with their changing voices. So there are very few middle school mixed choirs. They usually sing as treble choirs or as tenor bass choirs. And there's a lot of literature out there that is appropriate in terms of text and difficulty and range. There's rich resources. And we recommend the best of the best. This year in particular, the North Houston Children's Choir is only in its second year. But the organizer was in charge of the Aldine Children's Choir for many, many years. And it was a fantastic children's choir from a Title I district. And she was the arts director of fine arts for that district before she retired. So she has brought all of that. She has brought all of that organizational expertise to the organization of this choir. They have a wonderful staff. The middle school is a school that I have visited several times to supervise student teachers, and the level of teaching is just over the top. So they are young artists. And then Montgomery High School has one of the largest and most active programs in the state, and they sing beautifully.
As I said at the beginning, this is the 23rd year of Hear the Future. 1999 was when it all began. Eddie, how has this phenomenon, if you like, progressed? How have you seen it develop over those 23 years?
Well, we would like to think, being fans of the Houston Chamber Choir, that everyone has heard of the Houston Chamber Choir. And that's not necessarily the case when you get out into some of the suburban areas. So the overall goal is to expose young singers, as in the elementary choir, to what can really be the future, the junior high choir, high school choir, and then, should they choose to do that, a professional choir. So actually what's happened is, as it's evolved, the word gets around, and people are so impressed with these choirs that maybe they've never heard of. And with the Houston Chamber Choir, ultimately, as the goal for a professional choir, that it's fed on itself. And that's one of the best things that's happened artistically through these choirs, is that the word has gotten around about Hear the Future, and now people really do know what you're talking about when you say that. So it's a good thing.
Sally, have you seen the repertoire of these choirs develop in the course of those 23 years? Are they bringing different types of music now than they were back in 1999?
I would say they followed the trends of choral music in general. A lot of contemporary composers have been introduced that way. We have a lot of fine choral music that's being composed by people who are in their 30s, early 40s. And so back when it started, it was more traditional. They also will include some world music and things they research and find. Everyone that comes to Hear the Future really wants a very dynamic program. They want an exciting opener and meet in the middle, and then they want a really dynamic closer. And our people are quite good at finding those gems that really showcase their choir. And they wouldn't have the reputation for excellence they've earned if they didn't know how to program and find the right music for the singers of that year. I'd like to tell a story about how Eddie and I actually got involved in doing this. We sang at Hear the Future the same year. They had, Bob had invited one elementary choir and then Eddie's high school choir and my high school choir. And while we were on site, we decided the next year we would offer to help. And we call it herding choirs. But we're so proud to be a small part of this. And we're so appreciative of Bob's vision. He has a heart for the underserved. He has a heart for spreading the beauty of choral music in every corner. And he's been extremely successful. And we're just very fortunate to be on the team to help make that happen.
Well, Eddie, Sally mentions Robert Simpson, the artistic director of the Houston Chamber Choir. Let me ask you, over those 23 years, we've talked about the benefits of Hear the Future for the choirs, the participating choirs. What do you think is the benefit of Hear the Future for the Houston Chamber Choir? What do they draw from it?
Well, the obvious answer to that is expanded areas and parents. We have a packed house. The concerts for the last several years have been at South Main Baptist, and it's standing room only. So it's a perfect avenue for these parents to hear the Houston Chamber Choir. Whereas they might not necessarily just tune in to a performance on NPR or look for it in the Houston Chronicle. It's an instant oral advertisement, as well as, I think, a little psychological punch, like, oh, I really didn't realize that we had a professional choir here. So the natural benefit to that is going to be increasing the audience. And that's what I think every professional choir is striving to do.
Well, look, this year's Hear the Future is coming up on Sunday, January 29th at South Main Baptist Church, as you just mentioned, Eddie, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I believe. But thank you very much for your work over these years, for helping us hear the future, and for being part of the tremendous range and influence of the Houston Chamber Choir. Sally Schott, Eddie Quaid, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody who supports the Houston Chamber Choir. We appreciate all that you do for the choir. We could not do what we do without your support. I'm St. John Flynn. This is Behind the Music. Join us again next time. Thank you to all who support the Houston Chamber Choir, our season underwriter, Silvercrest Asset Management Group, our patrons, donors, and subscribers. We appreciate all you do to help keep the work of the Houston Chamber Choir possible. I'm St. John Flynn, and this is Behind the Music. Join us again next time.
The Houston Chamber Choirs with One Accord is your one-stop shop for choral joy. If you enjoyed this podcast, help us to continue our mission to grow the esteem and appreciation of choral music by sharing, reviewing, and subscribing to our content. As a 501c3 nonprofit, support from listeners like you allows us to continue to create new and exciting programming. For more information about us and how you can support our work, please visit HoustonChamberChoir.org/give.